think liberals ever cared about black people. I mean,
liberals don't care about black people. Then are you saying Republicans embrace us in a warm, fuzzy blanket?
Ann Coulter joined The View hosts to discuss her book, Mugged, where she shared some bold and controversial opinions that did not sit well with them.
Miss Ann Coulter is back with a new book called Mugged, where she claims that President Obama has abandoned black Americans and that the OJ Simpson verdict was a great thing for America. I need you to tell me what you're trying to say in this book, because we don't know what you're trying to say.
What I'm trying to say is race-mongering has been very bad for America. Liberals use it to promote causes that have nothing to do with blacks and, in fact, harm black.
She called out the liberals, saying they use race as a political tool, and you can already imagine how that conversation turned out.
That excellent lead-in you just gave about OJ, I mean, I think that was the moment, having lived near New York City in the 70s and 80s, which was the golden era. It was like Trayvon Martin and Duke lacrosse case every day. With the OJ verdict, white America said, that's it, the white guilt bank is shut down, and that ended up being the best thing that ever happened to black Americans.
She implied that the OJ trial made a lot of white Americans rethink how they see race and responsibility, which is a reasonable point. She compared it to other racially charged events, showing how those moments made race a big part of the national conversation. But the host did not see it that way.
Being acquitted was good for who?
Yes, because you had millions of white people watching with the equivalent of what in New York we used to refer to as the Brooklyn juries, who simply would not convict even guilty black criminals, not innocent black
Hold up, Ms. Coulter. Please stop. Please stop.
She explained that her point wasn't about race, but the impact of liberal policies and how they've shaped things.
If you're going to talk about race, at least know what you're talking about. At least know what you're talking about. Well, tell me how much you know about being black.
Well, this isn't about being black.
Well, but you just said, you just made all these statements about how black people feel. Tell me how you know that. Yeah, you did.
This is not a book about black people. It is a book about white liberals.
She argued that while Republican policies have often been labeled as racist, they ended up benefiting black communities. She also gave examples to back her points, showing how these policies helped in the long run.
This is a fact that once for years, Republican policies on crime and welfare, for example, were called racist. When they finally got implemented after the OJ verdict, I might add, by Giuliani in New York, Reagan and Bush judges overall, tens of thousands of black lives were saved.
She linked these changes to the shift in America after the OJ trial, calling it a turning point, but Whoopi was not having it.
Your facts are just a little shaky. I mean, you're saying that because black people, because liberals are what? Because liberals have abandoned black people now? Because what? I don't get it. I don't understand.
I don't think liberals ever cared about black people. I mean, 5 minutes after the Civil Rights Act of '64, they start calling everything that has nothing to do with black people a civil rights issue.
She argues that liberals moved away from issues that helped black communities.
Liberals don't care about black people. Then are you saying Republicans embrace us in a warm, fuzzy blanket?
We're not embraced back. But yeah, we tried to.
Every time she tried to explain her point, she was interrupted, making it difficult for her to speak.
Wait a minute, so the Southern strategy was a white liberal thing? No, it was a Republican thing.
No.
And also, Newt Gingrich calls President Obama the food stamp president. That's not racist? Wait a second.
Do you really think that was, do you believe it was racist for Newt to say that the president is a food stamp president?
Well, he wouldn't say that.
If we could just skip, I'm not a big fan of Newt, so if we could just skip that for a second and get to the Southern strategy.
Yeah.
Whoopi jumps in again, challenging her view of history.
It's an absolutely liberal folklore. Republicans were winning the South since 1920. It was the outer states of the South. It was Texas, Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia.
Voting. What are you talking about? We weren't allowed to vote.
Who was trying to get them to vote? Republicans were.
Yeah,
Ann corrected them by pointing out how the Republicans pushed for black voting rights. She also brought up history, saying Republicans were the ones who helped break down barriers, even though a lot of people might not realize it.
First black congressmen were all Republicans, and the first black governor was a Republican.
You're talking about way back.
That Republican stand is so different from
No, that is definitely what we're told. But in fact, the Democratic segregationists were all liberal Democrats. It is a lie that they were conservative Democrats.
Everybody was a segregationist, darling. You know, basically, everybody was.
She disagreed with them and used a chapter in her book to make her point.
What are you in chapter 14 in this book. The first
And you know,
Republicans to be
chapter
elected
14,
in the
I'm
South.
listening to my grandmother who was there, who remembers what
Howard
happened.
Baker, an aggressive integrationist, first Republican elected in Tennessee to the Senate. You have Winthrop Rockefeller, first Republican governor in
But you know, I have a
in
question
Arkansas.
about today. Let me ask you
Integration.
something about what's going on now. It seems to
The
me
Southern strategy is a lie.
It seemed like they were doing everything they could to shut her down.
my view, and I have a different one from you, it looks as though the Republicans are really going against blacks, not the liberals.
Liberals using the label of civil rights to promote a liberal cause they support, i.e. voter fraud. In fact, one of the first states in the union to pass voter ID bills was Rhode Island, 85% Democratic legislature. And who pushed it? A black Democrat in the House, a black Democrat in the Senate.
She flipped the conversation by bringing up voter fraud, suggesting that it's often used to push policies that don't protect voting rights, but serve political goals.
That's a fact.
No, you may have pick out Rhode Island, but there are other states where it's completely
Why would
Republican
black
driven.
Democrats be pushing this? Because they had seen
Because they
voter
want the
fraud.
Hispanic vote.
She also challenged the idea that these laws are just racist by showing they have real support from within the black community.
Every book that you write is very controversial and shocking, and it's usually an opinion that's disparate with everybody else's.
Right.
Do you just write these books and try to find whatever it is that's going to make everybody say,
Well, you don't believe this crap.
The reason, it's an excellent question. The reason I write these books is because I try to correct things that people believe that are just false.
Sherri did not agree with her views, telling her to leave the past.
Well, there are a few things. I mean, discovering that we
were you
never
saying,
won the
Sherri?
Goldwater states and Republicans didn't win the Dixiecrat states until the Dixiecrats died out.
You keep staying back in the past. You got to come into the present. But this is what I want to say.
Anne challenged her, asking what part of her book seemed hateful, but Sherri couldn't answer clearly.
I think so. You name a hateful comment in
No,
here.
you know, when you talk about you stay in the past, that Republican
No,
was
only
back
because it was
then.
brought up. There's only one chapter on the past, and I mean, it's just a
But when you
fact.
talk about something like voter suppression, which
Right.
obviously is trying to keep black people and Latinos,
Republicans have never done that. That was a
it's in-
Democrat thing.
But and it's in states where they don't even have any.
stop, let me just, because can I just say one?
Like most interviews on The View, it did not end well. What do you think about this interview? Let us know in the comment section below.